It's no mystery that Microsoft loves to steal your data. And it's pretty terrible. So I wanted to show you this program that is amazingly simple to use, that can configure your system in a way where Microsoft doesn't get anything more than they absolutely need to. And that program is called O&O ShutUp. I just always search O&O ShutUp. So it's O&O ShutUp10++. The link can be in the description of this video, and it's just really, really easy. It was mainly made for Windows 10, but it also works fantastically with Windows 11. Just a quick little safe executable that we can download and install on our system. And there are a lot of these settings you can go in manually and modify and tweak yourself within the Windows 10 operating system, but there's some things you can't actively modify as easily without either running this program or going into the registry itself. So there are a lot of different settings you can change on the system, and they'll kind of tell you whether or not it's a recommended action, you want to limit it, or no, you want to kind of leave it the way that it is. A lot of these, as you can tell, for privacy, everything is already turned, it's on, or off, I guess more so. So the red means you have no protection in this way. So you just kind of go through all those settings. I think it was a apply only recommended, somewhat recommended, or apply all settings. So we're just going to hit apply all settings. Don't worry about the system protection stuff. So apply all settings, it makes everything pretty much green. And I'll go through some of these that are the really important ones to go through. I'm just going to undo real quick so we can kind of show that. Go through the ones that are really, really important that you want to make sure you change. Because sometimes if you do make some of these modifications, it can break some of the functionality of your system and how you use it. So it's kind of being aware of that. This is more of a advanced user thing. You wouldn't necessarily give this to your parents or something and just tell them, hey, do this, because it can get them into more trouble. But if you want to configure it for them, just be aware that some things that don't work correctly, you might need to be their tech support guy for. But a lot of these things here are pretty self-explanatory in the top here. You know, disable and reset advertising ID and info. Absolutely, you want to get rid of that. Disable transmission of typing information. Yes, they don't need that stuff. Suggestions in the timeline, you don't need it. Suggestions and start, again, you don't need it. Tips and tricks, I mean, unless you need tips and tricks, it's not going to break anything, so turn that off. Suggested content, you don't need it. We're trying to use a clean operating system here, right? Possibility of suggesting to finish the setup of the device. I think that will be every now and again when you restart, the computer will come back and it'll say, hey, do you want to log in, sync your settings, stuff like that? It's not worth it, so just disable that. And then we come down to some here that say like limited. They're kind of like, hey, you want to be mindful of these settings in particular. So disable app notifications. That'd be like down here in the bottom right. It would show you notifications of maybe when an app is installed, it's completed, it's downloaded, or you have an update or an alarm or something like that. So if you disable those app notifications, it might get rid of everything, including Microsoft Defender saying that, hey, you have an infection. That's something you'd want to maybe be careful of. That's more of a personal preference. Access to local language for browsers, that's limited because let's say that you're in a different country or something like that and they want to use the local language. That might be something you want to do. Text suggestions when typing on the software keyboard. It depends. You know, if I'm typing in search, I kind of want it, but at the same time, I don't want search. So we'll just take that off. Disable sending URLs from apps to the Windows Store. They say that you want to leave that on because if you're browsing somewhere and you're saying, hey, I want to get this software, and you click the link in a browser and it's going to redirect you to the Microsoft Store where that software is available to download. This would prevent that from happening. You can disable it, but if you're trying to download something, let's say you have some printer that requires software that was from the Microsoft Store specifically, you wouldn't be able to get it. So that's one you'd want to be careful of. Disable storage of clipboard history. I think there was some stuff with the clipboard history would go to Microsoft, which you wouldn't want them to have, obviously. Having clipboard history can be beneficial. The fact that this is set as a yes for recommended tells me that it's probably something that Microsoft keeps track of that history. Probably want to be careful there. And I don't think I can necessarily read every single one of these. We'll go through some of the more nuanced ones that are extremely important to know about. App access to user account information, because they don't need to know who you are or what you are. There's no reason why an app needs to know your username, your Microsoft account. There's no reason. Tracking of app starts, yeah. Diagnostic, yes. And then a lot of this privacy here that's all limited is specifically because what each one has to deal with. So if you click disable app access to device location, that's fine, but nothing will be able to know where you're at on the device. It doesn't control the browsers, but it controls the actual device. And disable app access to camera, same situation. You turn that on, that would mean that if you want to go ahead and go into camera, that might not work anymore. We can't find your camera, right? So let's turn that back on and do camera. We can't find your camera. Let camera access your camera. Yes, okay, see? There we go. But if we go back, close it, and then if we press disable apps to access camera, we go back to camera, we need your permission, see? So that's where some of these settings can actually be dangerous because it would apply to universally everything on the system. So if you're trying to do streaming from your computer and you want to connect it that way, it might disable it. So that's stuff you want to be careful of. And that applies to everything else in this section of privacy down here. So that's where you kind of want to take the time to look at all of those to make sure. but nothing's going to be using the microphone, you know, all of these things for this laptop's purpose. I don't need any of these. So I can just turn them all off. And if you need some more information, if you click on it, it will tell you exactly what it does mean in more detail than probably what I'm giving you. We're just going to blast through all of these though. Let's see, app access to unpaired devices. That might prevent you from connecting to Bluetooth on another device if you wanted to. So that's very important to leave on. And for this one specifically, I'll leave it on for delete. Access to images. I don't think that's going to mean exactly what you think it's going to mean for the images. We'll turn that off and we'll find out. She'll let me know. And that should also be fine. So what do they mean by wireless technology? Okay, so that might be the same vein of the way that other things connect. Eye tracking, you don't really want that. Disable the ability for apps to take screenshots. That depends. If they're talking about literally apps, right? We have that on, and let's do, where's the print screen button on this keyboard? It's function key shift. Okay, it worked though. So that might be specifically apps, not so much the print screen function. So that's fine. But yeah, we don't need apps taking photos of anything. Oh, desktop apps, crazy. And then Edge, pretty much everything for Edge. If you're not going to be using Edge, it doesn't really matter. If you want additional protection, disable everything for Edge, and then same with the legacy version. I'm not just going to go through any of that because it's been too much there. But synchronization. This only applies if you're using a Microsoft account, which you shouldn't be using in the first place. Even if you were, I would heavily recommend that every single setting for your Microsoft synchronization is turned off. And that's mainly because if you have a problem, it syncs and then it goes everywhere and it's a problem everywhere. So disable Cortana and disable input personalization. Absolutely. Disable Windows Copilot. Yes, we don't want Copilot. And disable Windows Copilot and recall. Yes. Here's the thing. Disable the use of diagnostic data for tailor-made experience. Absolutely. Why would I want that? Occasionally showing app suggestions in the start menu. Don't need that. I know what to use on my computer. I don't need suggestions on like, hey, use LinkedIn. See, that's LinkedIn right there. Search. Disable search with an AI search. Yes, disable extension of Windows search with Bing. I would recommend it because when you're searching for something, you don't want Bing to be showing up. You want to search VLC. I want to see VLC Media Player. I don't want to see VLC Media Player from the web. So this helps the search bar be just a little bit better. And then almost at the end here, we'll see some of these changes happen maybe at the bottom of the screen. We want to get rid of people. The search box is fine. Meet now, we don't need that. And the widgets. We don't need widgets. I have clicked it thrice now. It doesn't want to disable that. Maybe with a restart, it'll be okay. Get rid of feedback. The Windows Store apps, yep, you want to get rid of that. Tips, tricks, you don't need those sort of things. You don't need Windows Media Player Diagnostics, and the Windows Spotlight, you don't need that either. That's like when you're on like the lock screen and it'll show like like a spotlight sort of thing. It'll show additional information. We don't need that sort of stuff, That's all just for the current user. And then the whole local machine, it's kind of the same sort of questions, but there's a little bit more on the system side here as well. So you want to make sure you go through both of these to make sure. But what I really like doing on that is just kind of like the recommended settings, because then it just makes all the changes for you automatically. And then you can go through and double check to make sure that what you have on is on, what you want to have off is off. And then that way, they do some of the limited things here. I would turn all of those off. And then Edge, I would turn everything off. I would turn everything off with location services and then the Windows Update. So Windows Update via peer-to-peer, yeah, that's not really a big deal if you're just connected to your own network. Yeah, you don't want to disable automatic Windows updates, though you could, in theory. That's not too bad. And then when you're done with all the settings and all the changes, both the current user and the local machine, when you exit, it'll say, many thanks, yada, yada. Settings may revert to their previous status following Windows updates. That's mainly going to be the major features updates when you go from one like 24H2 to 25H2 or something like that. So you want to run this regularly. I'm actually not going to close it just yet. Another little tech tip here. If you do File, Export Settings, and you just do the O&O ShutUp configuration file, save it to just say, your desktop or something, you'll have the configuration file right here. And then if you want to verify, you still have this program on here, you would do File, Import Settings, import those configuration settings, and it'll change all of the settings to exactly how it is in the point in time. That's really, really important to make sure that if there are some settings that do get modified and you don't remember, oh shoot, was this on or off, you re-import those settings and it will go back to what you actually want it to be. But then we exit and it'll say many thanks. And then when you shut down, it'll say some settings were not changed. You need to restart your PC. Do that, and then that would give you all the changes.